Okay, here we go. Happy Friday. Welcome, everybody, to the New Nation podcast. I'm your host, Mike, and we're back again. Please, before we get started, give me a follow, please, on X at Mike of the New Nation. No, that's wrong. I think it's Mike of the Nation, and we're on Instagram at thenew.nation. I'm pretty sure you can find me either way. But yeah, I wanted to hop on to make a quick episode about last night's debate that Elijah Schaefer, friend of the show, or friend of the former show, R.I.P. IDG, friend of the former show, friend of the current show, Elijah Schaefer, held a debate between Adam King, Vince James, I guess, Nick, and Gavin McInnes, Nick Fuentes, and it went away. And I'm sure you've been seeing memes all over the X sphere. Well, see, that's why Twitter was such a fun name, because you could say Twitter sphere, you can tweet. Now do you say the exosphere? Do you just say, on X memes have been circulating? I don't know how to phrase that anymore. But yeah, we're going to talk about that for a little bit. What I wanted to start, though, was that something I've been experiencing on X, and if you've listened to the show in the past, or even just to follow me on social media, I've said that I was never going to join Twitter, that I saw it as a black pill and just a black hole of depression and nihilism and just all around not being nice. So I caved. I eventually did, because I figured if I ever started the New Nation back up, it'd be nice to have some sort of a Twitter presence to put more eyes on the show. But what I've noticed recently, and I've made a new rule, and I'm trying to stick to it. It's just very tough. But the new rule of being on Twitter is don't engage with females. Do not engage with women on Twitter. Doesn't matter. Conservative, liberal, leftist, traditional, Marxist women in general. And I'm not saying that we can't interact. That's fine. If you want to ask me a question, I'll answer it. If you want to follow, I definitely appreciate the follow. If you want to promote the show. But arguing with a woman online, on Twitter, on X, even on Instagram, it's a zero-sum game. It is not worth it, because with the leftist women, it's easy. It's easy. It's so easy to disprove anything that they say, whether it's on abortion, feminism, any sort of political position that they hold. It's just easy. It's like an easy dunk. You know what I mean? With right-wing or traditional women on Twitter, they shouldn't be arguing with men on Twitter. You know what I mean? Like that's sort of I guess what antithetical, I guess, to being a right-wing woman or a traditional woman. You don't argue with the men. But I found that every interaction where I was arguing a point on Twitter was just so like such a waste of time, especially when it came to abortion, because the women on Twitter, and just women in general when it comes to the pro-abortion stance, they don't acknowledge the biology. You can take religion out of the abortion position if you want to. They don't want to acknowledge the biology, and I think they do it on purpose. And I think most of them are probably just too dumb to understand it. Well, they'll use the misnomers as like clump of cells and all the hyperbole they want to use just to dehumanize the baby in the womb. But you'll say just ridiculous things like, I don't think we should be killing the most vulnerable population in society. And they'll say, oh, so you want to control women's bodies? And you say, well, no, I don't want to control a woman's body. I'm just advocating for the life of the baby inside. Oh, so men aren't responsible for making a baby? No, I didn't say that. Actually, that's really the only way that you can make a baby is if a man is involved. So men are definitely responsible for making babies, but they're not responsible for the woman's choice to kill or not kill her child. I'm sure there are some men who promote abortion to their girlfriends once they find out that they're pregnant, but that's not the issue. It's very weird. It's like they almost try to push any sort of responsibility apart from themselves. So with the point of abortion on Twitter, I have kind of tried to stay away from women. I've made that my new rule today, and hopefully I can, stick true to it. I can adhere to my own rules. It's tough though. it's tough. The pro-aborts they are a tough group to crack. To this day, I don't think I've ever, even the only success story that I've had on the topic of abortion is my wife. To this day. And that was, that was 7 years ago. That was nearly 7 years ago. To this day, I haven't really converted anybody online or in person. They've gotten harder to deal with. But yeah, I think that's my new rule. Hopefully I can adhere to that. Hopefully I can stick to that. Do not engage in arguments about anything on Twitter, on X, with women. So I just also, can I pull up a funny tweet that I saw? We all know a former guest on the New Nation that I had was Tim of the New Evangelicals. And he just posted something so retarded. I just have to read it to you guys because it's hilarious. That's Will Somner posted that. Hold on one second. What did he say? Okay. I guess they took this from a Wired article where the headline, or I guess the girth of the story, is conservative activist Charlie Kirk is gearing up for an anti-MLK campaign next week to coincide with the holiday, saying the Civil Rights Act was a huge mistake, based and true about Martin Luther King Jr. I think we did in one of our earliest episodes of IDG, we did a little segment on why Martin Luther King should not be celebrated. Well, everybody knows. One of the reasons, especially looking at it from a Catholic point of view, and I'm also sorry, I know that I do want to be making more Catholic-centered content, especially on this podcast, and we'll do that. We'll reserve that for like the in-person shows. But for now, I think what I want to do is just take things that I'm seeing on Twitter, things that I'm seeing on Instagram, and just talk about those with you guys. It's a little bit easier for me to come up with things to talk about, and then just kind of do a deeper dive when it comes to getting guests on the show that we can focus a little bit more on Catholicism. But yeah, even on a Catholic point of view of Martin Luther King, the dude denied the Trinity. So point one, not to celebrate him. Point two, he was an avowed Marxist who actually got some Marxist training here in the state of Tennessee. I forget the name of the school that he attended, but it was a Marxist training ground. And you can go back to that old episode of IDG because I laid it out. And I know Doyle has done a comprehensive guide to wanting to get rid of Martin Luther King Day as a holiday, as a federal holiday. And just all around, he wasn't a good person. I think, what did the FBI find out when they tapped his phone, and then when they tapped Malcolm X's, they said Malcolm X is like a monk compared to Martin Luther King, just as far as like a womanizer and woman beater. But anyway, I digress. Okay, so this person on X, Will Sumner, tweeted, conservative activist Charlie Kirk is gearing up for an anti-MLK campaign next week to coincide with the holiday, saying the Civil Rights Act was a huge mistake. And then Tim from the New Evangelicals quote tweets that. He said, as we've said and will continue to say, TPUSA is the rebirth of the KKK in 2024. TPUSA, one of the biggest, like Zionist conservative organizations in the world, is now all of a sudden KKK. It's like anybody who disagrees with me is the KKK. This is such a line from like 2016. The New Evangelicals have not caught up. And I quote tweeted that and just basically said Tim is a top-notch grifter. But seriously, all respect to Tim. Good for him. Yeah, so we're not going to spend too much time talking about this debate. If you can, it's on Rumble. Go to Elijah Schaefer's Slightly Offensive channel to go watch that debate. So I think I heard about this a week ago, or was it a week and a half ago? But I'm pretty sure it's been in the works for a while. But for whatever reason, this was very surprising. Gavin McInnes was on the side of the Zionists, and it was a debate on Zionism, and it was a debate on Jews. And it was Adam King, who is I guess he's a Jewish Zionist who has a show on InfoWars, and Gavin, who teamed up against Vince James and our boy Nick Fuentes. And I didn't get to watch most of it. The funniest part of that whole debate, I don't remember where it was, what the timestamp was, or how long into the show it was, but obviously I saw the clip circulating everywhere where Vince asked Adam King, he's like, okay, if you had to get rid of one, Catholicism or Islam, which one would you get rid of? And the dude Adam says, without any sort of hesitation, he says, "Oh, yeah, Catholicism." And Gavin McInnes says, "What?" And you can hear Ryan Katz-Rivera in the background going, "Fuck you." And shortly after that, Gavin walks off the show. And I mean, this is why you don't side with them. Listen, I generally have a problem with these people, and it's, from a Catholic point of view. Listen, you don't want to be friendly and pal around with people who deny your Savior's existence, and not even your Savior, but the Savior existence. They believe that Jesus Christ existed, but they don't believe that he is the Messiah. They don't believe that he's the Son of God. They don't believe that he is our salvation. And, the Talmud says horrible things about him. They say that he is boiling in hell in feces, and that Mary, our Blessed Mother, was a prostitute. Horrible things. And the Talmud goes on to express some pretty crazy opinions on, let's say, pedophilia, rape, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know what Gavin was thinking. I think he just said, "I'm friends with Jews in real life. Maybe I can defend the position." And he did this whole thing kind of where he laid out, okay, these Jews are cool, these Jews aren't cool. And it's basically the atheistic Jews in name only, he says, he calls them ginos, that run the media. These are the Jews. These are the anti-Zionist Jews who, we really shouldn't like. But yeah, Israel should exist, all this kind of stuff. I don't think American money should go to help them, but yeah, they have a right to exist. No. And it's not that they don't have a right to exist, but it's just they don't have the right to a nation. Like, no one has the right to a nation. You either take over a nation or you don't. You don't rely on other countries' assistance to help you establish a nation. So I don't know what he was expecting. I think Nick and Vince did a really, really good job. And I texted Nick to see if he had a couple minutes just to give his reaction and what his favorite moment of the show was. So I texted him just to see if he would come on the show. So I want to see how much time I can waste to see if he texts back or to see if he says, "Yeah, give me a call." So we can't do that. I wonder if I should call Gavin to say, "Hey, I'm recording a podcast right now. Do you want to get on the speakerphone and say your favorite moment of the show?" Why don't we do that? "Hey, I'm recording a podcast now. Do you have 5 minutes to talk about your favorite moment of the debate? Just give me a call." Let's see how that goes, because I understand. The thing about it with me is when people text me, I text back instantly. And I understand that Nick and Gavin are probably two very busy people who are probably, after a debate like that, their phones are getting lit up. So they don't really have time to respond or even talk, let alone respond. So these are just what I do is I call casting lines out there. It's how I was able to do a lot of work in freelancing. I would just email people, "Hey, you want to come on the show?" Or, "Hey, can I photograph you?" And I think I would just get lucky with timing. They just happen to see it pop up and would say, "Sure," or "No, I don't want to do that." But go to Slightly Offensive's channel on Rumble and watch that debate. It was about 3 hours of fun. So kudos to Elijah for doing that. And the overall feeling about Zionism, and I do this from a very dumb perspective. I'm not at all as learned as someone like Nick is. And I kind of, a couple of years ago, I probably would have had the same opinion that Gavin does. People have the right to exist. They have the right to establish a nation. And yeah, Jews are overall okay. I don't have any problems with them. But over the course of the past 2-3 years or so, I think, especially with the return to Catholicism, my opinion has drastically changed. It's not that I hate Jews. Like, I don't hate Jewish people. I just wish that they were Catholic. I wish that they would accept our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I really do. So that's where I part ways with Gavin on that now. And I notice things, I've been noticing things. And like I said, I lived in Brooklyn. I saw how the Hasidim lived, and a lot of things just didn't seem right to me. And I've been to Israel. In 2013, I was in Israel. I went with Bieber, where we stayed in Tel Aviv, performed in Tel Aviv, and I got to travel to Jerusalem. I personally didn't travel to Jerusalem because I wasn't feeling good on one of the days, but I did do the Sea of Galilee. We went on a little boat trip up there, and I got to experience that. Tel Aviv is just kind of like it. Tel Aviv is kind of like a gay Jewish Rio. If you've ever been to Rio, you kind of have a similar feeling of Tel Aviv. A lot of gay in Tel Aviv. I didn't really like that. But yeah, having said that, I don't ultimately care about Israel. I don't really care about its right to quote unquote exist. Take it over already. If you guys are supposed to be the superior people in the superior military force, take it over already. I understand you guys have a lot of problems with the neighbors who are helping your enemies out, but I'm kind of over having to, give you guys money constantly and have people on the right saying that we have to support our brothers in arms, or we have to support our whole Judeo-Christian values, or no. There cannot be any Judeo-Christian values. They're antithetical to each other, okay? I would say that the only thing that we share are the Ten Commandments, and that's really it, unless you start talking to Messianic Jews, and then that's a whole other discussion. But who was it? Was it Pope Pius the 10th on Israel and Jews, or was that Pope Pius the 12th? I can't remember. Was it Pope Pius Pope Pius the 10th? What did he say? He said something like, because Jews don't recognize Christ, we cannot give approval to this movement, I would assume is Zionism. We cannot prevent the Jews from going to Jerusalem. We can't do that. We can't prevent them. We can't enforce any travel laws on them, but we could never sanction it. The soil of Jerusalem, if it was not always sacred, has been sanctified by the life of Christ. And as head of the church, I cannot tell you anything different. The Jews have not recognized our Lord, therefore we cannot recognize the Jewish people. And I understand that. All that the Pope could promise the Jews coming to Israel would be that he would do his best to turn them into Catholics. And so if you come to Palestine and settle your people there, we shall have churches and priests ready to baptize all of you. Pope Pius X was pretty based, wasn't he? Now, I understand that there have been some popes who, in the more recent years, have kind of softened on that message. But Pope Pius X, what a guy. What a pope. We kind of need that back now, don't we? But yeah, I just wanted to do a little quick show just to give you my reaction to that podcast. It was pretty simple. Nick won when it all comes down to it. And yeah, that's it. What else is happening? It's Friday. I don't even know. See, this is the problem with this podcast, and this is the problem that whenever I do podcasts, with audio, I don't really have to prepare anything, though I figure I should, right? I should try and prepare things. And here's something I was thinking about. This is going to be like the weirdest sort of all over the place ADD type of podcast that you're going to experience, I think. And at least with the sit-down interviews that are planned months ahead of time, I think those will have a little bit more cohesion and a little bit more order, where these are just going to be like, Dory from Finding Nemo. If something pops into my head, I'll say it. And if, I forget what I was going to say, then I'll try and remember it for 5 seconds and then move on. But here's something I was going to say. I took my daughter to, she has like a little gymnastics class on Fridays. We're just getting her into a little bit of ballet. It's like 3-year-old ballet. It's not real ballet. You know what I mean? It's not done at a dance studio. It's done at the same place where the gymnastics class is. And it's not really gymnastics. It's kind of like, here's a bunch of mats that you guys can do flippies on, and spins and a bunch of slides and a ball pit. But I kind of saw something that mirrored myself maybe about a couple months ago. You take them to the gymnasium for gymnastics. You sit them all in a circle, and in the beginning of the class, the teacher's saying, "Okay, let's pat the floor. Let's make some muscles. Let's twist back and forth." And all the kids do it, and you kind of help them if you can. But there was a guy who was next to me. There are not too many men who attend these classes, but there was a guy who was next to me. He was with his, I'd assume it's a toddler, maybe 3 years old, maybe about to turn 3. But he was very kind of like way too involved in making sure that his son did the right thing. When the teacher was like, make your muscles, he's like, come on, buddy, make some muscles. Come on now. Come on, make muscles. Okay, hit the ground. You're not hitting the ground, buddy. Come on, hit the ground. Come on. Why aren't you listening? Like, the kid's 3. And that probably would have been me about 2 to 3 months ago. I kind of wanted to make my daughter not seem dumb if other people are watching, if that's putting it, as lightly as I can. Because, in any sort of class where there's a diverse group of children, and I don't know if I want to use diverse, but if there's a big group of kids, some are going to be smarter than the others. So you see a child who's listening and mirroring everything that the adult or the teacher is doing, and then you see your kid who's just kind of spinning on her own axis and not paying attention, and then you get kind of disappointed and a little bit hurt that your kid isn't as smart. But the thing is that I've learned is that these kids learn on their own time and at their own pace. I don't want to be the dad who's forcing his kid to do the same exact movements of the teacher. And this kid was, if anything, he was more kind of watching and studying. I was like, oh, that seems beneficial in some way. But, to have the dad kind of down the throat of a 3-year-old and just kind of forcing him to do things that he's not really even clear on what they are, that seemed a little sad. And I kind of recognized that in myself. And that's why when I now go to gymnastics with my daughter, I kind of just, let her do what she wants to do as far as, mimicking the movements. If she has to sit on a mat or if it's her turn next and she has to stand in a certain place, that is instilling some sort of sense of order and discipline. So when it comes to that, I'm, making sure, hey, sit on the mat, or hey, okay, go step on the circle, wait your turn. That, I think, is the right sort of guidance that we can give our children rather than forcing them to look like the other kids, if that makes any sense. And it's all so impactful. These kids, they're like sponges. They soak everything up and they hold on to it. And I'm not surprised, if one day my daughter, when she was like 9, would say like, Dad, remember when, we would go to the gymnastics and you would do this or that? And I say, wow, you remember that? Yeah, okay, maybe I shouldn't have, yelled at you for not wanting to do the thing. You know what I mean? I should have just sort of respected your decision, which is a weird thing to say to a 3-year-old. I respect your decision. You don't have to do that. You don't have to necessarily get down on that level of being walked over where you let your 3-year-old walk over you. But you find you get on their level, even physically. I've kind of stopped talking to my child from just standing up because she has to look up and it's a very intimidating position. So if there's something really important that I want to tell my child, I will get down on one knee. I will kind of try to get on her eye level and then we'll talk from there. And that's not letting your kid walk all over you. It's not this sort of millennial type of parenting, but I want to be the parent who is not remembered for being super harsh or yelling at their kid for most of their childhood. I want to be understanding. I want to be there for them. So that is the plan moving forward. Also, here's another thing. Nick or Gavin probably won't text or call, but I did want to say something to the effect of just admiration as far as Nick goes. I just remember, I think, so Nick is going to be, at some point in the near future, a very, very important and a very mainstream face for, and I don't want to use conservatism, so I'll just say the right. And he's not necessarily mainstream now. He's a fringe guy, but he's gaining popularity more and more. And it's just, it all clicked for me when I remember the Groyper Wars versus TPUSA, asking a very, very important question. Hey, what's conservative about sodomy? And they couldn't answer it. They gave libertarian responses. Oh, well, what 2 people do in the confines of their own home with consent, that's really all that matters. And when you get older, when you start a family, when you are practicing Catholic, those things start to matter. Those answers start to matter. It will turn you off to people who maybe you once respected, who have now towed the line with libertarians and with liberals, and who aren't really standing firm in what they claim to believe. And that's why, I had a little bit of a talk with someone on an X space, because there's this guy, he had blocked me since then. If anybody knows his feed or on Instagram, please DM it to me or put it in a comment somewhere. But there's this guy on Twitter called Conservative Ant. He has since blocked me, but he came out sort of in the Calendar Gate week that happened about like a week and a half ago, a week now, where he was just coming out and just railing against traditional or conservative Christian female influencers. And you go to the guy's bio. I can't see what it says now, but it's like gay conservative influencer, American flag, all this stuff. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, Ant, can you tell me what's conservative about sodomy?" ? Would tweet at him again. "Hey, Ant, would you want to debate on what's conservative about anal sex?" "Hey, Ant, what's conservative about anal sex?" And in the Twitter space, I think the discussion was, Mike, why wouldn't you want, as many people as you could who would vote the same way you do? And I was just saying, I have absolutely no interest in having sodomites vote the same way that I do. It's antithetical to the positions that I hold. You cannot be a traditional conservative and have sex with men if you're a man. You cannot do that. There's nothing conservative about it. You know what's even more conservative? And literally to the word conservative. What's more conservative is a man who has sexual attractions to another man, but who has the discipline not to act on it because he knows it's an abomination, right? I have so much more respect for that type of conservative who is actually, owning up to the tenets of conservatism. And I would much rather that guy be in my sphere, or if that guy be in my movement, rather than the active sodomite. Is that fair? That makes pretty much, I think that checks out. So that's harsh. It's not harsh. I just don't know where that little sidebar came from. So yeah, let's see if there's anything interesting on the exits going on. I figured I'd just have Twitter open just to see if there's anything interesting I can talk about. Let's see what's trending. Tucker's trending. Delta Airlines Protestants is trending. Oh, wow. Interesting. I wonder why. Is it just the use of the word Protestants themselves? Let's see. Modern Crusaders. Nick Fuentes explains the myth of Judeo-Christian and the Pharisaic origin of modern Judaism. Yes. Adam King. There is Judeo-Christian. There just isn't Judeo-Catholic. And Nick said, I'm glad you said that actually, because Protestants are basically Jews. Oh, based and real. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, so I guess Protestantism is trending. Now, also, I saw a tweet from Laura Loomer, and let me bring this up because I did quote tweet it, and I don't get these people. These people are okay. So Laura Loomer tweeted this: "Is the deep state activating HARP to disrupt the Iowa caucus? We all know Nikki Haley has lots of friends in the defense industry and military-industrial complex. She's losing in Iowa, and now Iowa is set to get hit with a once-in-a-decade blizzard as Donald Trump is set to dominate the Iowa caucus. Is the deep state using HARP to rig the Iowa caucus? Looks like weather manipulation to me. Look at this weather radar and see how the incoming snowstorm is accelerated out of nowhere." These people are kind of on the same level as flat earthers. Weather happens. Weather patterns, they can be predicted, I suppose, but anomalies do happen. It's also Iowa in January. It's gonna snow a lot. There's gonna be blizzards, okay? Like, to act surprised that a big snowstorm is gonna happen in the middle of January in Iowa just because it's around the same time as a caucus and it's gonna derail Trump. Who cares, by the way? You have to be loony. Loony Laura Loomer. I mean, I understand that there's a lot of people who like her. I understand there's a lot of people on the right who like her. I think she's batshit crazy. I actually even photographed her back in 2017 for that book that I was doing. But she, crazy people can be influential. I just think she's off of her rocker. It's absolutely ridiculous. If we have any people from Iowa listening into the show, tweet at me, send me a DM, just saying things like, it's completely not surprising that this would happen. I understand what HARP is. I understand that the program to create weather as a possible weapon is a very interesting one. I just don't think that Nikki Haley's defense department ties are going to do that in order to help her, because it doesn't matter. Like, Trump is still going to be the nominee anyway. So I guess whatever works, I suppose. Let's see. Oh God, there's this awful dude. There's this awful dude named Thomas Palega on Twitter, who is this Catholic gay. He's a he/him person. Everybody pretty much hates him for the most part, and he just kind of posts the most coal you could ever see. And he just, I have no idea. I haven't thought about this at all. I'm just kind of scrolling past it. If a couple has sex and a woman doesn't climax, is that a violation of church teaching? Catholic teaching requires the procreative and unitive aspects of sex not to be separated. Is this not an objective separation? I don't think the he/him understands how babies are created. No, an orgasm doesn't have to preclude or isn't required in order for a child or a human life to be created. I don't know if he understands that. So if a couple has sex and a woman doesn't climax, that's not a violation of church teaching. I don't think that's mentioned anywhere in the catechism. Weird. Some of the comments here. When you totally understand Catholic moral theology. The comments I want to make, well, time for my morning coffee. And someone said it's simply unrealistic based on the probabilistic outcomes that every encounter for a couple would be both procreative and unitive. And to that he says, extremely well said, which automatically makes me disagree with that. Let's see. What does this have to do with anything? Yeah, based. Not according to the church. And I mean in reference to your direct question and also to your assertion that the unitive, quote, aspect is defined solely or ultimately by that one aspect of the marital act, and also your insinuation that the choice to use contraceptive is the same type of decision as desiring but failing to achieve a bodily function that neither person is ultimately in control of. Yeah, I mean, real. It doesn't make any sense. This is the type of things that these people have to post in order to get noticed. Sad. This is John Miller tweeted this. This is Adam King, who is the Jewish fella who was debating against Nick. Here's something to consider. Biden is the first Catholic president since JFK. The reason they want the border flood isn't just for nefarious reasons like voter fraud and human trafficking. The satanic Vatican is trying to make America more Catholic. Border crisis is Catholic number one. I think another Jew was like, what are you doing? And it's weird, too, because if the migrants on the southern border were seeking asylum due to religious persecution against Catholics, like that would kind of make sense. But I don't think Biden has any sort of Catholic directive in order to get more votes for a Catholic end in America, or to have America be more Catholic. No, that's just a cope. It's because he wants to stay in power and they want to do anything they possibly can to make sure no person on the right ever wins an election again. So what do? You get people to vote for you by giving them everything they want for free and at risk of basically isolating your tax-paying public. So, yeah, that's just dumb. Let's see here. I want to get Sovereign Bra Chase onto the show. I've DM'd him. I reached out to him. He has no desire, not no desire, but he has no plans to be in Nashville in the time in the, what am I talking about? He has no plans to be in Nashville in the near future. I guess that's what I was trying to say. And so I'm saying, like, even if I can fly you out, you should come, because I want him to be the first guest on the YouTube episode as far as the New Nation is concerned, because he's leaning so close to Catholicism, so I want to try and bring him a little bit closer if I can. And also, if there are guests that we really want to see on the show, I'm going to do GoFundMes to fly the guest in and put them up so that they can stay. And like I said, it's only going to be happening maybe once a month, maybe once every 2 months, just because I want the guests to be really, really good. And, if I announce a guest and, the overwhelming majority of people want that guest on the show, then I think it's not a stretch to be like, hey, I'll contribute substantially a little bit more to the GoFundMe. If you guys want to contribute $10 to get this guy on the show, make sure he gets there, make sure he has a flight and a hotel. I think that would be cool. I think that'd be good. So let's get Sovereign Bra Chase onto the show. DM him, tweet him, and we'll probably end it there. Is there anything I have left to say? Or is there anything more pressing on X that I can scroll down to? All right, that's it. Have a happy Friday, have a happy weekend, and we will see you at some point next week. Bye. God bless.